Hey guys, I've really been stirred about revival in Texarkana recently. I'm going to tell you a few quick stories. Last week we had my friend Chris Mathis from Crestview, Florida with us, and he was telling me a story. He said in the 1940s there was a church in his city in Crestview, Florida, and they had a sovereign move of God in the church. And in that sovereign move of God, people started coming from different churches and denominations, but it was an all-white church. And then some African American people came in, and there was still racism and segregation. So what happened is some of the pastor and some of the deacons said, y'all have to leave, y'all can't be a part. And the Spirit of God left just like that. So my friend Chris Mathis got together with some local pastors and said, we must repent for that sin. So they repented for the sin, and all of a sudden they said they broke out in revival. And what happened is for 8 months in Crestview, Florida, a bunch of pastors got together, and they said for 8 months every weekend that Damon Thompson would come in and a few other fathers of revival in America, and they would have outpourings, not at one church, but in churches around the region. And they said they averaged about 300 people a weekend getting saved. So I've been getting stirred. So we were in the meetings the other night, and I was praying, I was flat on my face, and then the Lord said, why did the revival stop in Texarkana? And then I was thinking, revival in Texarkana? And so I remember my friend Josh Surratt told me a story one time about a big revival. So I called my friend Josh up, and this is the story. In 1906, R.A. Torrey came to Texarkana, and there was a revival that was so big and so powerful that more people got saved during this revival than even lived in the city of Texarkana. Also, more people came into the revival and traveled in to Texarkana than was even in our city. But here is the thing. They said that all lines of communication and travel to get in were completely overloaded, that they had to book extra trains coming into Texarkana just because the revival was so big and powerful. Also, they said during this time, 8 bars shut down completely because they had no customers. I'm talking about a move of God. So I said, Lord, why did this revival stop? So I called my friend Josh, and he said, Joe, no sin or anything happened, but the evangelist said I can come in for 6 weeks at a time to different cities. When he left here, he went to Kentucky, and another revival broke out. And I said, so wait a minute. There's just an open well of revival here. The only reason they stopped is because the evangelist moved on. They had built like a building in this place because they thought that the revival would be sustained. But when the evangelist left, they just quit the revival. And I'm telling you, I am just stirred in my spirit that well of revival is still open. So I was in prayer the other morning, and I started laughing, and I said, God, we are ready. We are a people who have been fasting and praying for this very thing. And the Lord spoke to me and said, I've been giving you 2 Chronicles 16:9. And that says that the eyes of the Lord move to and fro throughout the whole earth to find somebody whose heart is completely loyal to Him. And then it says that He will show Himself strong on behalf of that person. And I said, God, look no further in Texarkana. I want to be that person. Burn Texarkana wants to be that group of people that we have been contending for this. So we were driving back from a place to eat with evangelist Chris Mathis and his wife Nikki Mathis, and they got a prophetic word from one of their prophetic friends that said in Texarkana they have been contending for revival for years in the place of prayer. And if you are an intercessor, that word is coming because of what you've been praying. And they said this service on that Friday night that we just had is going to be maximized in the spirit, and what is going to happen is going to take everything up to a new level. But here's the good word. It said, but it will be sustained. It will not just be a one night, but that move of God that everybody comes into, it will be sustained. You know what happened from Thursday night to Friday night? It's like the numbers just doubled. It was in both newspapers here, and people just started coming in that I didn't even know who they were. But the Spirit of God was drawing them in. As hundreds of people came in to this revival service, and Nikki Mathis just led us into worship. But about that third song, she walked away from the keyboard, and I looked around, and people were on their face weeping, crying out to God. And all of a sudden, just the Spirit of God came through that place. Then Pastor Chris came in and ministered, and then we thought service was over about 2.5 hours in, but then we did a fire tunnel, and the Spirit of the Lord came in. And there are people that came up and said, I was physically healed. I have never felt the presence of God manifested so strong. And they said, my life has changed forever. People have been saying, I have been set free from bondages and just different things. And then when the night was over and I was thinking about it, I remembered a story a friend told me. My friend said years ago, I was in Dallas, Joe, and I lived there, and he said that the Lord showed me a vision of Texarkana. and I saw a field, and I saw people ministering, and I saw such a great revival that cars and trucks were coming into this revival, and people were trying to get to this revival and had to park so far away from the service. He said, but then I saw trains in this vision driving straight up to it. I saw planes landing right by the revival and people getting out. And then he said, I saw the weirdest thing. I saw horses and buggies coming in. See, what you have to understand is we've got to dip back to the old revival that was going, and now we're going to bring it in. We're having old wineskin into the new things of the Lord. And the well of revival is still there. And my friend told me, he said, Joe, you were one of the men out there ministering, and there was this great revival. And I started thinking, Lord, now is the day, now is the season, now is the time. And so I just felt the Lord say, this is it. Call the intercessors, get ready. Call the revivalists to stand up, because now is the time. I've got prophetic friends all over America who are calling me saying, Joe, I don't know why, but the Lord is saying now is the time for revival in Texarkana. Now is the time. So I'm asking you to contend with us for revival that's going to shake our region. My wife recently had a prophetic word that what we're all doing, that it is going to be just an outpouring of revival, but it's going to flow to the region around us. I had a prophetic dream recently about a well, and this well kept growing, and the well was growing deeper with pure water. And as the well got bigger, people started to come and drink. See, if a well is small, 6 or 8 people can gather around it at one time and drink. But when the well gets bigger and bigger and deeper, more people can draw from it. And as this well was growing in this dream I had, I saw people coming in from different nations. I saw people coming in from all over. I see people traveling in to drink from this well. It is September 20th, 2015. This is when we're shooting this video. I have no idea what the future holds. But we're going to look back on this video because we're going to stand on the prophetic word. We're going to glean from 1906 and what was done. And there was an open well of revival that just stopped because a man left. But I'm telling you, the Spirit of God is here for revival now. God bless you. Get ready for what the Lord's about to do.